All right, everyone, how are you? I'm Lekan Olawoye. Today, I want to talk about how to protect Black professionals in corporate from the Amy Coopers of the world and from the Amy Coopers in your workplace. So, this issue is really important to me, and I wanted to make sure I addressed it and I spoke to Black professionals, but not just Black professionals, to also allies and people that's working in corporate that see these things happen. So, give you a backstory. This woman, Amy Cooper, called the police on this Black man, right? That was bird watching, right? And it was at Central Park. And the fact that she called the police because she felt threatened, right? She was walking her dog off the leash, which was not allowed. He was watching birds, and he asked her to please, put your dog on a leash. And because of the privilege, she felt that she had the right and the obligation to do what she needed. And because he sort of called her out, right, in a very, appropriate way, she inappropriately then called the police, right? Felt threatened. But I wanted to pause there for a minute because, it's easy for us to say, man, this woman is racist. This woman is, mean spirited. But this woman, Amy Coopers, are in your workplace. Amy Coopers is not just at Central Park saying she felt threatened by somebody, a Black man, watching birds, but it is in your workplace every single day. These are the things that we deal with as Black professionals on a daily basis. And it's really important that we address this because this is why, it's difficult for a Black professional maybe to even get into your workplace because you have an Amy Cooper, right? That is your HR manager. That is your HR leader. That is your people leader. That is your, even your diversity inclusion leader, right? That does not believe that she is racist, right? Because again, this Amy Cooper, when she was interviewed, she again apologized, but she's like, I'm not racist because, well, maybe she has a Black neighbor or a Black friend, right? And we get this on a consistent basis. How do we work in an environment of these types of microaggressions? How do you work in an environment and move up in your career when you have an Amy Cooper as your supervisor, as your leader, as your colleague that is not comfortable with you as a Black professional, but will not say it, that will not actually, speak to the issue and will actually say, I am not racist. There is no, diversity, inclusion, and belonging training that will stop an Amy Cooper in your workplace. There's no, sensitivity training that will, let this person go. Because this Amy Cooper, right, worked in corporate, right? Just like you and I, worked in corporate and could be your boss or your supervisor or your colleague, right? And, she worked at Franklin Templeton. And I needed to know that on a daily basis, these are some of the things that we go through that it is difficult to put your finger on because we don't always have video or evidence and documentation, but it happens. These microaggressions are consistent and always happening in the workplace. When you're working with a contractor, when you're working with a leader, when you're working with a supervisor. So how do you stop Amy Coopers? Number one, right, you need to ensure that you do not stop at, inclusion training, diversity training, sensitivity training. And you need to be very clear about ensuring that you yourself actually, if you're racist, if you feel uncomfortable, the first part is just acknowledging it. That I'm uncomfortable with Black people. That maybe I don't know them well enough, but you need to just own it. Then you can move into the next piece. But if you are constantly denying that, you are not comfortable, yet that, you feel a way about Black professionals, it is difficult for us to be our best selves. It's difficult for us to do our best work. That is why it is, some Black professionals leave your workplace and you're worried about retention. That is why Black people, sometimes do not move up in corporate spaces, not because they're not professional, not because they don't have the credentials. This is not a skills problem, right? This is a racist undertone that we need to be very, very aware of and very, very intentional about eradicating. So I've heard in many occasions from many Black tech leaders and many leaders in industry that, for some reason they couldn't get a raise, although they've outperformed their colleagues. There's probably an Amy Cooper in that environment. At some, workplaces and some leaders, I've heard, when there's two Black leaders, leadership becomes uncomfortable. There's probably an Amy Cooper in that environment, right? So it's not just at Central Park being malicious and calling the police that we find Amy Coopers. She's everywhere. And until we acknowledge that, until we become intentional about eradicating Amy Coopers in corporate spaces, we will never, ever be truly diverse or inclusive. And we will never actually foster an environment of belonging. I wanted to make sure I had this conversation with you. Subscribe, let's have a conversation, and let's be intentional about eradicating the Amy Coopers in the corporate spaces.